Hi. I know, I know, I know I've been gone for a few days, and I'm very, very sorry about that. I've had some personal issues and some monetary issues, several things crop up that I had to tend to. That might be, it's still ongoing, so that might be happening frequently, but over the next couple of days or so, I've found some time freed up to where I can get some more videos out to you. So, without further ado, welcome to another installment of the legend, the epic saga, The Madness. I'm Mad Chad, and this is Madness Productions. Now, these are, what I'm about to talk about today, these are just my opinions. This is just from my perspective. But I really think that these ideas I'm about to present to you, you're going to find very, very enlightening, and I hope that you can gain some insight. Now, I'm going to be covering a lot of business things, business-minded ideas here, specifically towards Captain Marvel, maybe not limited to. Of course, you're going to find a larger premise that this is connected to, but this is just my perspective and what's currently going on regarding a lot of things that we've seen recently for the MCU and Disney's business ethics. But I want to cover today specifically about Captain Marvel. Now, I received a comment on a previous video asking if it were true about like 25 no-show pre-sales for every showing during the opening weekend of Captain Marvel. Now, I realized that was a rumor. That was the first time when I saw that comment, that was the first time I actually heard that, and I did do some research. Although at this point, it could be questioned, but it is a rumor. I've also heard, there's been a lot of, on the interwebs, there's been a lot of different photographs and videos of half-empty theaters, almost fully empty theaters in some cases. Plus the idea, another rumor about there being empty sold out front rows for the opening weekend as well. Like if you were to go and want to go, which I wouldn't do, but if you wanted to go to the front row, they were always sold out at every showing. And so there was some, let me put it into perspective from my point of view to answer that question. I decided to do a video about that, not only in particular, let's just get going here. I am an unsuccessful business owner. Yes, I do own businesses, still do, not making any money, soon to be solved, hopefully. I actually own a corporation, again, not making any money. At a time, it owned several other companies, which is why I started that corporation, so that I could, create my other companies and have it be the owner of those. And my company was Harder Enterprises, is still in function, just not making any money. There was one of the two other businesses that was owned by Harder Enterprises. One was Inline Couriers. It was a courier service, mainly rollerbladers for the Austin area back in the mid-90s. And I had a couple of BMXingers as well, and even a rock climber. Had an employee staff. We did things like flyers. We did packages across town. We could get there quicker than vehicles in many, many cases back then. I don't know if that would be plausible now, but it ran into some problems. I had problems with other competitors, and they came in. To make a long story short, I ended up breaking even, but decided to go ahead and close the doors on that. Now, there's a reason why I'm explaining all of this, I'll get to in a moment. The third business, the one that I am focused on now, is Madness Productions and Publications. Now, that company back then, in the mid-90s, was actually under a different name. It was entitled Harder Graphics. But since then, I decided that this would be a better name for where I was going with it. Even back then, I had the idea for my comic book, because I've had this idea for a long time, like 24 years. This has been in the making and just now coming to fruition. But I've done a lot of work on it. Back then, I figured it was just, harder graphics. That way I wasn't just focusing on a comic book. I could get my art out there in other ways as well, do merchandising with t-shirts, which I did do. I did make some good money off of it at the time. Right now, it's not making anything right now. But I'm setting this all up for you because I'm going to be presenting to you in a moment some hypothetical situations regarding the question, is this true, about the, 25 pre-sale, the 25 no-shows in every single showing of Captain Marvel during its opening weekend. Now, the hypothetical situation that I want to present to you is, now, hypothetically speaking, okay? And again, these are just my perspective, my opinions. But let's say that my comic book, shameless plug, The Chronicles of Lance Caliber. Let's say that I had everything ready to go. The first issue had been printed and shipped off to every comic book store, every retailer in America. And it was shipped out. It's already shipped out, and I decided to purchase. Now this is the first one. This is the first business tactic, if you will. I shipped them all out. They were in the comic book stores. They've already purchased them from me, and they are now on their shelves. And I decide, before they hit the shelves, I decide to call now listen to this. I decide to call every retailer and pre-sale and buy with my own money and buy 25 issues at every single retailer so that I could expand the numbers and make them seem as if they were sold. Now, am I going to go to every single one of those retailers and pick up the comic books that I purchased? Absolutely not. That would just cost way too much time and money. And this is my first point. What I'm doing is, because I'm purchasing those, the only thing I'm really doing is making it seem as if when a comic book company, okay, let me say something. The comic book company, when a comic book retailing store purchases a comic, especially from larger companies, corporations like Marvel, like DC, they have to pre-order, and usually they have to order a certain amount in order for them to be brought into the store. Once they have purchased them, they cannot return the comics. They cannot. It's up to them to sell them. And if they don't, pretty much they don't make any money. And this is what's happening right now. I'm not going to get into that right now, but there's a lot of comic book retailers closing right and left because of this push, especially from Marvel and from DC, but especially from Marvel and Captain Marvel, and nobody wants to buy them, and they're oversaturating their shelves. And so there's so much lost interest in the retailers right now. There's direct market happening. They're having to close their doors all over the nation, and it's a very sad thing. Hopefully we can correct that. I'm hoping to correct that in the future if I possibly can. I'm putting my best foot forward. With that being said, I would be spending more money than the money I spent on the money that I actually made, because the retailers, they buy the said product, and if I were to in turn buy them back from the retailer, I'm actually spending more money. So the money that I actually am making dwindles. I actually make less. So that's my first point. Now the second part of this would be like, and again, I'm putting this into two sections here. Now the second part of this would be, and this is a better way to look at it. If I had not, let's say some of my businesses were successful. Let's say, for example, I decided not to close the doors on inline couriers, on my rollerblade messenger service. I decided to leave it open, but break even with it and leave it open, still not making a lot of money, and going through ins and outs over the years, but I still have it, but it's not making a lot of money. But the other company, Harder Enterprises is making money. Let's say I've got other ones too. Let's say I have a restaurant that's doing really well, and maybe some other side companies underneath those, and maybe some of those aren't doing too hot, and some of them are. And let's say, for hypothetically speaking, now, let's say that Madness Productions is rolling them out. They're rolling the comic books out. They're a very successful company too. And I decide to do pre-sales and pre-purchases of said comics, but rather than purchasing them from the retailers, I decide to do my own pre-orders of these comics, but I still decide to purchase them. Okay. And for the ones that want them, or for the ones that, for the companies that are successful, I decide as a perk for them, since they are successful, to give 25 comic books to whoever employees they deem fit, if they want to give them out as awards or whatever. As rewards, whatever. So in those companies, I do 25, I take 25 here from each sales I make. I take those and, at a lesser price, but I'm still losing money, right? And yes, it's a perk and it goes with the business, and I can chalk it down to my business expenses. That makes sense, but it still inflames the business expenses. Now, of course, when my comic book series becomes successful, when my comic book becomes successful, of course, I'm going to purchase maybe 100 of them and give them to my friends for free. Absolutely. I'm willing to take that hit. I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm getting the word out there, and of course, they're going to tell their friends. But now that I've distributed my 100, they're going to have to go to a retailer or order them from me direct in order to get these comics. Of course, that's a obvious smart business decision. So I know you're asking, what's your point, Chad? Well, lighting better? Good. Now, before I make my point, I would like to paint a bigger picture for you. Let me give you let's take a look at the whole equation of the events that have transpired over, say, the last week. Now, Rotten Tomatoes, they deleted or removed 52,000 audience reviews. They just suddenly disappeared. Okay. After now, that raised now their expectations, obviously, to remove those reviews was hoping to get the numbers up a little bit. And as we go on, you'll see what's transpiring here, hopefully. And it raised it only by about 5%. I think it was at, before they removed them, it was at like 31%, and then it moved up to 36%. Soon after, enter the Marvel bots. Now, what I mean by Marvel bots are basically fake accounts that have been created over the past couple of months, give or take. They've been purposely created. They're fake accounts created by people hired by Marvel. And in this particular case, these users of the fake accounts went into Rotten Tomatoes and bombed the same comment over and over and over again. I'll make it very simple and clear. Captain Marvel was great. Blabbity, blabbity, blue, blah, blah. Give it 5 stars. And just a whole bunch of them. You couldn't find. It was very difficult to find. There were still some, but it was very difficult to find an authentic review. You'd have to go before you found one. You'd have to go several pages before you found one. So there was that. So again, that costed money. I'm not, again, we're going to be talking about a lot of these different things. Then YouTube changed the algorithms. And what they did was they changed the algorithms to where now, if you were to get on YouTube and search for Captain Marvel, what you're going to see first is all of the positive reviews and the people that are talking good about Marvel, the people, good criticisms. The bad criticisms are going to be on the bottom. So that changed. The algorithms changed again. I think, my opinion, costing more money. Now, very interesting. This is very, very interesting. A couple of days ago, a shill site. Now, what I mean by shill, a lot of people, whenever you hear the word shill these days, a lot of people give it a negative connotation. And what a shill is it's someone promoting a positive idea about a product or form of entertainment or a product. What they're doing is it's someone that has been bought in some way or shape or form. They've been given something to say that they're going to say something positive, and they may not even be fans. In a lot of cases, the shills and the bots, they're not true fans. They're not real fans. They're just people getting on and saying something to make that money or get those press passes to to parties or press passes or movie tickets or things that they want to do. They're given, like, if you get a press pass, it's a special credential that allows you things that regular paying people to conventions and such are unable to get into. Like, the first choice will come to either the VIPs or someone with a press pass. So they get those VIPs, they get those press passes by speaking positively, even though they may not feel that way. They may not even be a fan, but they're just getting on and saying, yes, this product is great. That's what a shill is. You can look at it positively or negatively. I don't think there's anything illegal about it, but, we get into very shadowy turf there. It gets kind of murky in there where to draw the line, because it kind of borderlines bribery. I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so a couple of days ago, a shill site that reports that had they had an article. They posted a shill site posted an article And they mention, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel to date has made more money in its opening weekend up until a Tuesday, up to a Tuesday on the final crescent moon in the end of the winter season. Just some silly achievement. The kind of stuff that, the kind of awards and trophies that millennials, give themselves. They, with no real effort put forth to earn said trophies. Just to say, I have a trophy too. Basically. And so in this article, it was talking about how great, Captain Marvel made more money than all these, and it's really great and amazing. And they became, during the article, towards the end of the article, in their arrogance. Now, this is the interesting part. In their arrogance, they made an error and leaked something out. They leaked out that Captain Marvel, they said Captain Marvel by next weekend, which it is that weekend now, Captain Marvel by the next weekend will make $750 million breaking even. Let me say that again. What they basically leaked was, now I don't know if this is right or not, but this is what they reported. $750 million in order to break even. Now, as far as I know, my take on it, as far as I know, most movies these days cost somewhere between $150 million to $150 million, say $150 million to $200 million to make a movie, and then maybe a few more million or something, or that will probably, I'm not going to say this honestly, but I think that would include, but I'm not sure, I'm not an expert, but that would include the promotion of it, advertising and all that stuff. Of course, that's going to probably cost their budget a little bit more than or about the same, or maybe a little bit less of what the movie was made for. So maybe my 150 to 200 projection, maybe add another 50 to 75 to that. Okay, with that being said, they said 700, and this article said at the end, they got so arrogant, they leaked this out and said, oh yeah, well, they're going to break even this coming weekend at $750 million. That would mean, if I'm correct, between the 150 to 200 area, okay, in that area is what it cost them to make their movie. They paid out twice as much as what they did to make their movie in their expenditures, which goes back to the things that we just discussed about, the stuff with, putting out that money for the shills and the bots and all that stuff. $750 million. Now, again, I am not an expert. Who is an excellent expert on this, that you can go check out. Odin's movie blog. I'll provide the link in the description below. And he's the expert. He can actually break it down for you. I believe that he has done some videos about this, and actually a few days back got with Jeremy over from Geeks and Gamers and discussed this, and he explained this. So I'll have him explain it to you, but my understanding, and it may not be correct, but my understanding of it is that they spent a hell of a lot more money than they even did in making their movie to promote it and push it. So in my opinion, the Disney MCU is hemorrhaging. They're hemorrhaging money all over the place. So with all of that taken into account everything I've said so far, and I know there's more, but I know there's more than what I've covered, but I'll cover that in a moment. So be patient, because I know you want to hear about the SJW stuff and all that stuff too, and I'll cover that in a moment. But my point is this, okay? They're hemorrhaging money all over the place. This is bad business. It's bad business. And I mean, I wouldn't make I couldn't make these kind of business decisions. And I'm an amateur. I'm unsuccessful. You know, I'm not claiming to be some big important person like Disney or Marvel or Lucasfilm. I'm not saying anything like that. What I am, what I'm saying is I am just an amateur, and I understand this concept. It's bad business. Now, in my opinion and in my research, from my research, now there may be more, but I have discovered 3 scenarios as to why they would embrace these unethical business practices. And again, well, let me just get into it. This is nuts. And you know, and they are, you know, but there's 3 scenarios why they would embrace these unethical business practices. The first one is fear. Okay. They're acting out of fear. Now, of course, we're taking into account the publicity, which again costs money. Now, publicity, again, this is another one where you can look at this. It's kind of a neutral thing. Okay. It's neutral. And it can be looked at either positively or negatively. You can get positive publicity. You can get negative publicity, which of course, you know, they're looking at it probably as positive publicity, but others are looking at it as negative publicity. You know, Brie Larson coming out and segregating the main demographic, the primary fan base. I don't want 40-year-old men. I don't care what their opinions are of my movie. You know, that she said in her previous movie, A Wrinkle in Time, which I completely loved that book. It was an amazing book. It was an amazing story. You should really read the book. Don't waste your time on the movie. I didn't even go see it because it's riddled with SJW bullcrap. You know, Kevin Feige, you know, just all these publicity things. And yes, what they're looking at is, even though a lot of us see it as negative publicity, you could also say, well, they're getting attention, which is what they want. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. They're getting the attention. And so there are going to be some people out there, especially normies, not all of them, but there's going to be some normies out there that are going to be like, wow, man, this is stirring quite an uproar. Let me go check this movie out and see what it's all about and check it out. So, you know, it's going to create some momentum for people to want to go see it. So they don't really care if it's negative or positive. So of course they're going to let Brie Larson go off at the mouth, even though she, you know, and then she retracts her statements and, you know, photographs or, you know, puts up a GoFundMe page about underprivileged children and stuff like that. When you could be doing something different and better instead of filming yourself and photographing yourself. Oh, look what I'm doing for these underprivileged children. When you could be giving them food and clothes and things that they really need. Or shit, let them go to a movie, but let them pick out the one they want to see. Maybe they'd rather go see How to Train Your Dragon. There's a bunch of kids movies out right now. I'm sure a lot of them would like to pick. Rather than, and then, yeah, again, some of them might want to go see Captain Marvel. That's not what I'm saying, you know. Kevin Feige, and then, of course, you know, Clark Gregg, you know, saying stuff about saying his stuff about the dinosaurs, calling a bunch of us dinosaurs wandering into a tar pit. Look, I wore my shirt, my dinosaur shirt. Yes, I love it. I love that title. You know, call me a dinosaur. I love it. I love dinosaurs, you know. And, you know, all of this publicity towards it, of course, you could say in one perspective, yes, Disney is probably gaining fear from the publicity that's been put out, from the SJWs, getting on the bandwagon going, yeah, you're just mad because because you're a misogynist. Oh, you don't want to see this movie because you're a racist. And that's what they're doing. And so the SJWs are getting on the bandwagon and starting all this publicity and all this craziness. And so, yeah, of course, a business-minded person is going to look at this publicity and go, oh shit. Oh crap, man. And so they could be shitting their pants and quaking at the boots. This could be one scenario. They're shitting their pants, they're quaking at the boots, thus making bad business decisions, trying to retract some statements and say, oh, I'm not saying don't go see our movie. Oh, no, that's not what I was saying. I was saying that what Brie Larson was trying to say was, she was trying to say, she's trying to push equality, or they didn't even say equality. They said diversity. Diversity, division, that's negative. They should have used equality, but that's another subject. But, whatever they said, they were stumbling all over their words because they were getting worried about losing numbers. So, of course, they had to go back to what we just talked about and start fudging said numbers. They were fudging the numbers. They try to figure out ways to fudge the numbers to make it look like it was doing better than it actually was. For the long run, because Brie Larson's now in this for 6 more movies or so or something. And now she's the head of all of the MCU and she's the main character now. So y'all get used to it. And so with that, they're just pushing their agendas and they're stumbling over their words because I'm sure the bigger execs are quaking at the boots. That's one way to look at it. That might not be the way, because there's 2 others I have to go, which these next 2 are connected. They are connected. So the first one is fear. The second scenario would be is they see themselves heading towards the best they can. The MCU, Disney, they see themselves headed towards as a monopoly. Now, as far as I understand, monopolies are illegal. They've been illegal for a long time, back from the 1800s. Now there's a good illustration about this. A good example of this would be William Tweed. Read your history books. It should be in there still, about William Tweed, and what he did was he was the first guy to come up with the idea, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy up all this property and all these places where people live and companies and corporations, and that way I'll be able to charge whatever I want. I won't have any competition. I've removed the free enterprise. So now I can charge whatever and make people become, a lot of people were getting poor and they had to turn, but I'll get to that next scenario. They had to turn to others for help, which is just as disastrous as this monopoly thing, which again, as far as I know, it's illegal to do. So there's that, and then to another example of this would be, as of today, as far as I know, Disney and Fox have completed their merger. They have finalized the merger between Disney and Fox. So now there's only a few companies left. Warner Brothers, DC, I guess. Who are they under? I don't know. Maybe Columbia and Universal, and maybe a couple of more out there. But, they might be subsidiaries of these bigger companies too, I mean, now that Fox is in with Disney, CBS, I think they're still with Viacom and stuff, but there's not a lot of big companies left. They're just starting to be less and less smaller companies now, because they're all being absorbed by these larger companies, which is like what Disney is doing. So it looks like they're headed towards a monopoly. And then there's the third scenario, which I know this is going to be the hard one, but Now, the third scenario, which is linked to the last scenario, a monopoly, is organized crime. If I can't turn to the monopoly, the only other people I can turn to is the mafia, organized crime, the mob. And of the things I expressed, look what they're doing. Look what they're doing. They're incorporating bribery. Okay, bribery. Hey, if you say this good thing about us, even though you hate it, if you go out and say it was great, as long as you don't say you hate it, we'll give you money. We'll pay you money. We'll give you some money. We'll give you some tickets. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. Just say that we're great. Say we're the best thing since sliced bread. Tell them that. Tell them that. Tell them great stuff. Just don't say anything bad about us, and it's fine, and we'll be fine. Which leads me to the next point. What else does the mob use? What else does the mafia use? Intimidation. Intimidation. So you've got the mafia using intimidation towards people, the SJWs, getting their cronies out there. In this case, it's the SJWs going out there and doing what we got. We got fake swatting going on, and which is kind of interesting because Renthemus has been bragging about doing fake swattings and stuff. And then shortly after that, Joe Quesada posts on her Twitter page, "Happy birthday." This all seems, and Joe Quesada over at Marvel Comics, owned by Disney. These are tactics used by organized crime. When there was with the alcohol in the 1930s, and they made it illegal, and they were going around and prohibition, and the mafia came in, and organized crime came in, and they offered. This is the next part. This is the next point of organized crime, offering a poor quality product, sometimes illegally obtained, at higher than usual prices. That's another thing that they're doing. And then on top of that, they're doing distractions and all kinds of these methodical things that now these guys aren't stupid. Obviously, they're very smart. They're very intelligent. To think that they're stupid. Now, the first one, the fear thing, yeah, that would be part of stupidity. But I don't think, I guess you could in one instance think that that's where they're going with this. But in another instance, really, it's leading more towards monopoly and or organized crime. And then they put out, we decided to rehire James Gunn back to do to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I loved 1 and 2. I loved those movies. They were amazing movies. But, James Gunn has done some questionable things on Twitter, has said some stuff, although they don't have any evidence of him actually doing them, but he said some pretty bad shit in the past. And, Disney came out to save face and said that they fired him, and maybe they didn't even fire him. I don't know. But that goes back to these underhanding dealings, very similar to what organized crime organizations like the mafia do. That they pull, intimidate people, do things at a higher price and intimidate people and charge them more money. Oh, you need some money? Here's some money, but you're going to have to pay us back tenfold. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. Otherwise, we're going to come and break your legs and trying to push their products down people's throat, or we'll shoot you. It seems kind of like what Disney's headed towards. It really does. So these are just my ideas. Again, these are my opinions. So this is the whole picture painted for you to see where they're going with this. Do you agree with me? So if you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up. Also leave a comment in the comment section below. And, I'll also leave my links and, leave the other links in the descriptions below as well. Subscribe to my channel, if you'd like to see more content. And as we say over here, 'cause I'm a ding dong, hit the ding dong for more notifications. And I'll talk to you real soon. And remember, It's not mad, Chad. It's mad, Chad.